Sports, Gary Parrish. Welcome back. CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. The like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball channel, it would be awesome if you did that while you're here. Let's get into it. Norlander, good to see you after you spent the past 3 days at Bethpage Black covering the Ryder Cup. First question for you.
Yeah.
As October approaches,
yeah,
whose seat is hotter, Hubert Davis or Keegan Bradley?
Well, I think it might be technically Keegan Bradley because I think there's just a general understanding. Well, he could return as Ryder Cup captain.
Never again. Never again.
Not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Yeah, let's do Norlander's Golf Corner to kick this off real quick, because actually I've got a story that I do think you're really going to like. But just general takeaways on the Ryder Cup. It was in Long Island. I live in Connecticut, was able to take the ferry over, cover it 3 days in a row, had a great time. It's golf events, as you well know, because you are there annually in Memphis for the St.
So much better on television.
Yes. Okay. So on that note, yes, I actually had so that got brought up in one of my text chains over the weekend there. If there's a big hole with big stars and you can be there, it's awesome. But it's vast expanses. GP, was logging easily north of 16,000 steps every day. But loving it all the same. But yes, there's a scientific method to covering it. It's just,
I tell people all the time, if you want to enjoy the golf tournament, so we're talking about FedEx St. Jude Championship, right? Yeah. I say, if you want to enjoy the golf tournament, go to the golf tournament. You'll have a blast. If you want to watch the golf tournament, stay home and turn on your television. Because when you're on the golf course, you don't really know what's going on. You don't have proper context. You cannot, like, you go to a baseball game, you watch everything that's right in front of you. You go to a basketball game, you watch everything that's right in front of you. You go to a golf tournament, you don't know what's going on. Even with the phone in your hand, you don't have a proper understanding of exactly how it's unfolding the way you do if you're sitting in front of a television.
Even with the phone in hand, as I encountered plenty, there's so many people like cell reception, like out on the 6th fairway. That wasn't getting any, nothing was going through text images or anything like that. But I tracked a few different groups every day. And it was a ton of fun. The Ryder Cup is obviously it's a special event. It won't be back in the Northeast for who knows how long. Like, it's in Bethesda, Maryland, I think in 10 or 12 years, but that's not the Northeast. It's in Minnesota in 4 years. And obviously it goes over to Europe every 2 years, but I did love it. And it was awesome to be able to cover it. But there was one interaction I had that I'll remember forever. It's so funny. Like, you go to these golf events and, media gets the lanyards, you can be inside the ropes and all that. So, at one point, I look over and it's literally Colin Jost is there. On Sunday, I go out to the first, I was like, okay, I'm going to track Scotty and Rory. I'm going to follow them for like 9 or 10 holes and go back to the media tent. So I do that, and I'm leaning against the tree, and I don't even realize this, but then right next to me, literally, is Nate Bargatze. So we talked a little bit. That was cool. I go, someone was like, Nate, I was at your show last night. And I go, where'd you play last night? He goes, Madison Square Garden. Right. I was like, I think I've heard of it. So we had a good chat. That's not the interaction though, but that was interesting. And by the way, that Sunday pairing, Parrish, I don't know how much you watched on TV. No. I'm not exaggerating. Between player guests, media, people that just had hookups and were able to be inside the ropes with a different colored lanyard, more than 100 people inside the ropes tracking this group. I had never seen anything. It was insane. I think Bargatze peeled out after like 6 because it got to be too much. But how about this? And then we'll get to the hoops, I swear. But this I know GP will appreciate. So on Saturday, whenever I decide, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to head out and I'm going to go. I didn't have my inside the ropes lanyard at that point. I was going to go to there's a media viewing area by the 16th green and by the 15th tee at Bethpage Black. And that's definitely, it's a walk. It's not a mile, but it's definitely like more than a half mile. So I'm walking out, and as I'm walking out, it's just random media people walking here or there. And I hear, oh my God. I was like, was that him? And then I notice I'm maybe 3 paces behind Ken Griffey Jr., who is
a photographer.
Right. And I didn't know he was working the event. But I noticed it. Why? Because he's got a USA hat, white on backward. He's gonna walk down all that, right? And so it was unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life, because I'm essentially then walking stride for stride with him, and I'm seeing the faces of largely 30 to 55-year-old men,
Yes,
walking his opposite direction, right? Okay. And I was tempted to take out my phone and video it, because Parrish, it was every fourth or fifth guy. I actually messaged myself on some of this stuff because it was such a cool experience that I almost wrote about it, because it was, and we got to talking. I'll get to that in just a second. But some of the things that people were saying was, the first one I've got is, and earmuffs for those listening, Ken Griffey Jr., no shit. Dude, that was Ken Griffey Jr. And then there's another, hey, that's Ken Griffey Jr. Hey, Ken, love you, Ken. You're the man, Ken. Dude, I watched you growing up. And the people that didn't say hi to him, they'd see him. I'd see their eyes. They'd double take, and then they'd pass us, and they'd still be within earshot and go, dude, I think that was Ken Griffey Jr. And it's this for 3 or 4 minutes, okay? And we're talking at a certain point. I was like, listen, man, I love the fact that you're doing photography. I'm a sports writer with CBS. I'm just, moonlighting here, doing some golf coverage. I usually do basketball. He explained to me that basketball is the only one sport that he hasn't shot, because he goes, my knees, man, bone on bone. I can't shoot. He's like, I can't shoot that. I've shot every other sport, but I can't do basketball. Won't ever do basketball. Tells me that his daughter, when she was 5, so this is like 23 years ago, he goes, you want to know how I got into this? My daughter turns to me at a game. She goes, Dad, why don't you ever just shut up? And he's like, it hit me right here. He points to his heart. And so he's like, I just decided to take up photography because I wanted to see my daughter grow up. His daughter, by the way, went on to play at Arizona. He was one of the nicest athletes I've ever talked to in my life. This guy talked to me as if we had known each other for 20 years. And it was probably about a 7 or 8 minute conversation from the media tent down to, essentially, I wound up walking with him just almost near to 14. And I talked to him if he gets used to like what he was experiencing, hearing all these people in earshot. That's Ken Griffey Jr. No, but Ken, I love you, Ken. He stopped and took a few photos, took a few selfies, and it was just an amazing, unexpected experience to have a conversation with one of the 3 or 4 most famous athletes of the 1990s, one of the most, just world-creating baseball players ever, and he was incredible. Like, I know you can identify with this.
Of course.
Well, in terms of the people, like, I've been fortunate enough to meet plenty of people who are really, really, really famous, and different people wear it in different ways. Charles Barkley famously is about as good as you can ask for anyone who is ridiculously famous and handles just being that in the public. And to experience that with Ken, and then coincidentally enough, on Sunday, we wound up talking again even more. I asked if he was going to shoot the Mariners after they're in the playoffs and all this. He told me about why he does the photography, all these shots he's got at his house. He was shooting for the Ryder Cup's digital team that was there. He was getting up at 3 a.m, taking the media shuttle, like doing the work. It was an amazing experience. I may well just like sit down and punch out the words at some point, because it was just completely unexpected. And to see this guy just kind of do the work. Like, he's got his camera, he's taking the shots, he's got the green photo vest on, and he was ready with the story, inquisitive about what I was doing. It was honestly, like, covering the Ryder Cup, getting to see all that was great, but having 2 run-ins on 2 days with Ken Griffey Jr. was the highlight of the trip, no doubt about it.
Awesome story, incredible experience. I don't want to put extra work on you, but people like me would like reading that, because you can't overstate to young people how big of a deal he was to people my age. First off, baseball was bigger then. I think it just was. And so, like, think of how big Aaron Judge is now, or Juan Soto, or Shohei, or Cal Raleigh, or Cal Schwarber. Ken Griffey Jr. was on another level altogether. 89 Upper Deck rookie card. I still remember walking to the 7-Eleven down the street from my pawpaw and grandmama's house and getting the pack. Pawpaw, can I go buy 1 pack? And I opened it, and there it was. And I thought that was going to put me through college. That's the way it felt. And the hat backwards, I'll still sometimes get weird tweets from like somebody who's very offended that I'm on camera with a hat backwards, or that I'm 48 years old with a hat backwards. Like, first of all, I can't imagine like how weird your life has to be that you care whether or not I'm wearing a hat backwards or not. We've never met. It's a weird thing to care about. All right. But it still happens. And I've thought about this before. Like, is it weird that I'm 48 years old and I have a hat on backwards? And sort of where I've landed on this is that I don't want to put you in my generation, but our generation.
We're not, but continue.
We're the first generation where we grew up, our heroes wore their hats backwards.
Yeah.
We're the first generation to look at our heroes and go, that guy's the coolest, in part because he has his hat on backwards. Of course, the swing, like arguably the most beautiful left-handed swing of all time.
Yep.
So the swing is part of his aura. The hat is another part of it. And if King Griffey Jr. is still walking around with his hat on backwards, I don't know why I got to change. I'm only doing it because of him. And if he ain't giving it up yet, I don't think I should either. But I really do think that's the explanation. Men my age and our age are going to end up wearing hats backwards for our entire lives in ways that have never been done. And I think the guy you spent 8 minutes with earlier this weekend is the main reason why. Yeah. I love that he has found a real passion.
He has
in retirement. I think
he's got more than 40,000 photos. He said at his house. I don't know if that means on his computer, but he's got all this stuff. He's been approached by all these people with deals to like capitalize more off of that.
Sure.
And he's just doing the work, man. It's really awesome.
He mostly does it anonymously. I mean, you can't be anonymous when you're King Griffey Jr., but he's not out there trying to be King Griffey Jr. He's out there trying to be the best photographer he can be, blending in as best he can. Because I've seen him at other events or seen him photographed at other events or talking about other events. And I just love that he's found that. First off, I think it's wildly important to have all the money in the world, be in your 40s and not really know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Like, I'd like to try it for a few weeks, but after a while, I think you need purpose. You need things to do. And he's found that. It's awesome. And just to your point about all the men being just blown away, there is nothing that makes you feel like a kid again more than just bumping into somebody who was a larger than life figure from your childhood. This has happened to me a few times. Like, my career has put me in a bunch of rooms with a bunch of famous people. And I swear to God, hand to heart, I usually don't even blink. But do you know the people who made me blink, who made me go, oh, wow? Dwight Gooden. I saw Dwight Gooden at a Nationals game. He was one section over from me and my wife. I like jumped up and ran over. Like, you could say Sydney Sweeney is one section over to you, and I would try to get a look, but I wouldn't be running over and freaking out, right? I'm just telling you the truth. I use her to make a very specific point. I don't.
A lot of people are doing that these days, by the way. Continue.
I don't care. I don't get starstruck, but like, I saw Doc Gooden and I flipped out in a way that is unrecognizable to myself. Mike Tyson. The first time I was in a room with Mike Tyson, it was like, that's Iron Mike Tyson. That's Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And King Griffey Jr. is the type of person that could do that to people my age. He's a big time star, and that's a wonderful experience. I'm glad you got to do that.
Yeah, no, we can get moving, but just one last thing on that point, like, just to walk stride for stride with him and soak in a reality existence that he lives. Maybe not every day, because maybe where he lives, it's not. But like when he's out in public, like, and because people were not expecting to see Ken Griffey Jr. at a golf tournament.
Right.
Okay. So to just continually, Parrish, it's every 4 seconds as we're walking, and just I'm looking at the faces and the double takes, and it was really, really cool to view the world through the prism of an extremely famous, and frankly, Ken Griffey Jr. has got to be top 10 all-time highest approval rating of any American athlete ever. Just an experience I won't ever forget.
And I think the golf tournament setting probably plays into this a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a 50-year-old man at a golf tournament, by definition, you probably loved King Griffey Jr. once upon a time. Correct. You know?
Correct, man. It was it was wild. And he even said he's like, once I do this, and he put the camera up to his eyes. Like, once I do this, not so much, but when I bring it down, it happens. So it was really, really cool. I knew you'd enjoy that as a big time baseball fan. And,
one last thing on Ryder Cup, and then we'll move on, because I do think this is interesting. And you can sort of tie it to other sports, specifically basketball. The biggest criticism of Keegan Bradley seems to be that he ran Colin Morikawa and Harris English out there twice. And there's some
That's
golf.
the biggest one. There were some other ones, but that's
the course setup is another one.
Course setup, and it's actually like really foggy over how much say he really had versus other people. But I think I know what you're getting to. Can you keep it going? Yeah. The specific English Morikawa thing was very blatantly anti-analytics,
right?
And it wound up costing him. So continue.
Here's my point. I don't know that every college basketball staff operates this way, but I know some do, and I know every NBA staff does. They have data on everything. Every possible lineup combination you throw out there, they have data on it. And I'm just telling you, there will be meetings where somebody will point out this 5-player combination does not work. We get killed on the offensive glass or whatever. But we cannot do it's like a non-starter. Don't ever try to put those 5 players on the court together because the data says you cannot do that. And it is just wild to me that there were analytics connected to this that placed Morikawa and English as literally the worst combination the United States could throw.
Out of 144 different ones, it was ranked 144. Right?
It was the last one, the worst combination, and he ran it out there twice. And I couldn't help but think as I'm learning this, that this wouldn't, like in the NBA, somebody, this is not an overstatement, is it? If this were an NBA team instead of a Ryder Cup team, somebody would have stepped in and said, Captain, you can't do that. Coach, you can't do that. I've got the data on it. I mean, it's up to you, but I've got the data on it. And just let me tell you, if this goes poorly, you are going to get murdered because of the paper that I'm holding right here. I'm trying to show it to you. This just wouldn't happen, I don't think, in another sport. And I don't know how it happened here.
I don't know how it happened either. He got asked about it on Saturday after he rolled him out again. Kind of an insufficient answer, but yeah, because the golf world doesn't look at us. I promise to win the basketball, but the golf world has gotten really far along in terms of metrics and analytics and looking at a lot of that stuff, and it was kind of wild. Also, just to compare this to hoops, I went to the losing press conference on Sunday, and it was but this is an individual sport, and this is the one team event, and I didn't know what to expect going in. Like all 12 and Bradley sat there, and I was like, is this going to feel like a team that just lost in the Saturday of a Final Four? And it was really more like, a tough conference loss in the middle of January. I was expecting maybe a little bit more dejection. I think some of that was offset by the fact that, ironically enough, the United States in one-on-ones and individual matches on Sunday, like they really made it 15-13 after it looked like it was going to be a runaway. But yeah, covering golf and a lot of stuff that's around that GP versus basketball, primarily our beat here. They're vastly different sports. That is for sure in terms of just the coverage, dealing with the athletes and so coaches and Bradley's, captain. It's not even the same thing, but yeah, was a very, very interesting weekend. You want to move on?
Yeah, I think it's
18 minutes in, but the Griffey story was worth it.
I think both of those things are true. The Griffey story was worth it, but it is probably time to move on. We will get to question number 4 in our Candid Coaches series next. The question is as follows. Who's the best X's and O's coach in college basketball right now? I'll tell you what coaches told us. We'll do that next. But first, let's get a word from our partners.
Saturday kicks off at noon, and it's big time. First, Air Force and Navy face off in Annapolis. Then it's big time at the Rose Bowl when UCLA hosts Penn State.
Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports. We can just act like this is the beginning of the podcast.
This is the start.
We can just act like this is the beginning. Dodo Birds, Leaky Black, Matt Norlander, Brandon Davies, he does it, blah, blah, blah. As you likely know, we have launched our annual Candid Coaches series over at CBSSports.com, where we ask roughly 100 college basketball coaches a series of questions. We grant anonymity in exchange for honesty. Then we publish the answers. 3 questions last week. We discussed each of them on the previous episode. Today, turn our attention to question number 4. It's going to publish Tuesday, so consider this your scoop. Here's the question. Who is the best X's and O's coach in the sport right now? And I don't know if this is the closest voting we ever had, but it's very close. Matt Painter won, Purdue coach Matt Painter, with 19% of the vote, followed by Dan Hurley at UConn with 18% of the vote, and Greg McDermott at Creighton with 16% of the vote. Nobody else got more than 7. So it was pretty clear cut. Those were the 3. And what was interesting, just to peel the curtain back a little bit, I think you got one more vote for Hurley than you got for Painter. And I think I got two more votes for Painter than I got for Hurley. And that is how Painter ends up on top. It was literally, when I added it all up, it was literally one vote.
Dang, that's close. I thought Hurley would win going in. Kelvin Sampson and Ben McCollum finish out the top 5. McCollum getting a ton of love. A lot of that's due to D2. We've talked about him recently on the show, but even I was surprised to see that he was able to get 5% of the return. Speaks to what he's been able to do. We got a number of coaches with lower votes. We'll get to that before we get to the end of the segment. But Painter being atop this list, Purdue's getting a lot of good pub in this Candid Coaches series. And there's still another question. We won't reveal what it is right now. There's still another question to come that Purdue/Painter also got some love for there. I thought Hurley would win. Just a couple quick quotes on both of these guys that I got on Painter. Quote, Pate runs great stuff by design of his lineup. He'll always have an anchor for his offense, a scoring center, lots of three-point shooting, and when he has a dynamic playmaker, his sets are almost impossible to stop. Then he has a ton of counters. You think you know what's coming. Then he flops it. Then he flips the flop. I love when I'm talking to coaches. He flips the flop, of course. You got to turn them over because you can't get enough misses. Another short quote, Purdue plays to their players' strengths better than most. I love when we do these Candid Coaches questions, and sometimes I get these long quotes, and they're really good, and then I love when I get a single quote of like 10 words, and it just right to the point. This is why I think that I think he's the best. I had a couple of coaches that came down to Painter or Hurley. I think I remember 2 or 3, and I want to say like maybe 2 went Hurley's way, one went Painter's way. Real quick on Hurley, then take it away, GP. One quote, he does a great job with scouting what he's going to go against, how he plays off his offensive menu, his pace, style of play, and if he has a really good point guard, they're always going to be good. The way he recruits toward his system with shooting is dangerous. And then another one here, quote, I just think Hurley or his whole staff, which I'm sure it's all of them, but they call sets on the fly in loud arenas and they execute them extremely well. That's so hard to me. It's not coming out of a timeout or a dead ball. It's in the middle of game flow. I think it shows how much work they do on all the different reads and sets because guys seem very flawless in getting from one action to the next. And it's complicated stuff, not just like drag ball screens. End quote. So some real insight. This obviously, admittedly, by the face of the question, it is a bit nitty gritty, but it was interesting to see the returns on this. And of course, Hurley and Painter met in a national championship game back in 2024.
This is one of my favorite questions that we did this year, if only because this is one where I genuinely want to hear what the coaches have to say. I guess by definition, I want to hear what they have to say about all of it, but I don't necessarily think the coaches would have a better grasp for like who's going to be the best team in America than say, any random college basketball columnist or analyst whose job it is to quite literally follow the sport on a national level on a day-to-day basis. That is not the job of a college basketball coach. I can't tell you how many times you talk to a college basketball coach in the middle of the season and they're like, so how's Tennessee doing? Like they just don't know. They coach in the Big Ten and they don't really, it's just off their radar. They're just focused on what they're doing.
They haven't played, and they don't play them in their league, or haven't faced them. This is not all coaches. Some coaches live the sport and they know it, but a good portion of coaches, if that team is not on their schedule for this season, they will have a vague awareness at best of how a team is doing.
There are some coaches who are listening to this podcast 3 times a week, watching Inside College Basketball at night, reading everything Norlander writes, checking out the top 25 and 1 every day, and there are other coaches who they know that stuff exists, I guess, but they're coaching their basketball team and worrying about that. And the other stuff just doesn't even penetrate their world at all. And so when we ask coaches who's going to be the best team in the country, I'm interested in what they have to say, but I don't know that they have a better grasp of that than say you do. On this, they know this stuff. These men know each other. They're in clinics together. They've scouted each other. They've worked in the same league either previously or now or whatever. This is one where I really want to hear what they have to say. And I, like you, thought Hurley would win. Because he just might be the right answer. He's certainly one of the obvious answers. But also, I've heard him talk about X's and O's publicly more than most coaches. Have you ever seen a video of Ben McCollum breaking things down?
Not yet, but give him a couple of years maybe. But yes, exactly. To your point, have not.
Yeah, I'm sure they exist. They don't go viral. But after winning back-to-back championships and being pursued by the Lakers, Dan went on this. I don't even know if it was just like he was very available on podcast and just talking basketball. And he's very good at it and clearly sharp. And I thought that might help him win the vote to some degree. And again, he was right there. But if you would have asked me before we got started, where I would have thought it would be Hurley, Painter in some order. I wasn't surprised those were the top two. But after that, for people who are asking, Greg McDermott got 16% of the vote. Kelvin Sampson then got 7%. Ben McCollum 5%. Randy Bennett, Tom Izzo, Dusty May, Bill Self all got 4%. Rick Pitino, Nate Oates, Rick Barnes, Chris Collins, Grant McCaslin, Mark Schmidt all got 2%. And if you add all that up, it gets you to 93. We had a list of coaches who made up for the other 7%.
Let's talk a lot about this real quick. Surprising that I think I got the only vote for Todd Golden, just won a national title. Obviously, he's been a coach that has had a reputation of doing a lot of not just modern analytics stuff, but there are tiers to this, man. And he, for many number of years, has been at the top of that. Only got one. I did get a quote. This coach said, "From an incredible list, I ranked Todd number one here, not solely due to winning the national championship, but I go back to his time at San Francisco when I saw them beat a very good Virginia team in Uncasville. That was actually the bubble tournament, by the way. His team's spacing and ability to make you to guard multiple actions is quite impressive." I think Mark Few only got one vote, which was somewhat surprising to me. This coach said, going 7 to 8 straight years of dominant offensive teams amongst the most efficient teams in the country, typically using more traditional lineups with two bigs. He's also a really, really good defensive coach. So I want to just talk about the surprises I had at the coaches that didn't get more votes. So Few only getting one, Golden only getting one. Oates got just only 2 or 3. Surprised he was that low. Self not being, I think if we asked this question 5 years ago, Self is in the top 5 for whatever reason. He didn't finish there. Now, one coach insisted to me, because at this point, I think I got a vote for Self, and I was more than like 45 responses in at that point. And I think I told the coach, I was like, I think you might be the second or third vote for Self. And he's like, "Are you kidding me, man?" He's like, "I know they haven't been good the past 2 years, but his in-game adjustments is it's the best in college basketball." Like, maybe the essence of what the coach was telling was there might be others that, okay, if you want to say there's 1 or 2 or 3 other guys that maybe, on the margins are better X and O, fine. But in-game adjustments, it's Bill Self. It's not debatable. He's an elite strategist when it comes to tweaking in games. So I was surprised by that. Wasn't surprised Randy Bennett got some votes. We just had a question in the chat here about Pitino. I think you got all the Pitino votes. I don't think I had a Pitino one, which is also kind of surprising. I mean, Pitino you can make the case, and GP has to a certain extent on the show, that Pitino is the greatest coaching talent in college basketball. Obviously, there's other guys that line up right alongside of him, but you can at least make the case for him. So I was surprised that he did not get more. Izzo got some, which wasn't surprising. Josh Schertz, I got 2 for. So he was probably the 2 votes that I got for him. The guys who voted for him were pretty emphatic on why they thought, okay, doesn't have to be high major, any level. If you told me I could take an average college basketball team and I gave one coach one game, he's got an X and O, I'd go Schertz. Barnes got a few. There was a variety of different votes here, but I was surprised that some of the guys just didn't get more than they did. What about you?
I was surprised I didn't get more Rick Pitino. I was surprised Bill finished as low as he did, but I do think that's a direct byproduct of they just haven't been good the past. Yeah, they've been good. It's always relative. They haven't been KU good. They haven't been good to their standard over the past couple of years. That's probably the explanation. I didn't really notice this until I just saw it in the chat, but I think we got 0 votes for Mark Pope, which would be surprising because he is thought that way.
Yep, we got 0 for Pope. Still, mildly surprising. Still, relatively young in his coaching career. So if he does this again with Kentucky, and we're not going to ask the question again next year, but if we did, he'd probably get some votes. But yeah, I'd say that was. And is he the most surprising coach that didn't get a vote? I'm just asking it out loud as I'm scrolling through here. I think
that would be for me. Yes.
I would say you can make the case. Let me just do this. I would say Tommy Lloyd's X and O ability.
Yes, that's another one.
TJ Otzelberger didn't get a vote. I think you can make a case for him. Boop, 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 boop. I would say those rank near the top. Coaches listening to this probably, they might pop out another coach or two on this.
I thought Nate Oates would finish higher.
So did I.
Yeah, because he has a reputation like people really respect his approach and the analytics with which he uses to guide his program. Even when you talk to people, they're fans of him. At least the NBA people I talk to. So I was surprised he didn't get more of the vote. But the tip top of it looked about the way I thought it would look.
Yeah, it was very informative. If you're watching live or listening to this on Monday, this is your heads up. GP will have plenty more on this, some more quotes to read, and it's just his own personal insights and takeaways from this. But there were just we didn't ask only for high majors. I mean, Dan Earl got a vote. Jared Calhoun got a vote.
I got a Casey Alexander vote.
There you go. Like exactly. Yeah. So that Rick Bird influence. I love to hear it. Chris Collins got a vote. Or Collins I think got multiple votes.
Yeah.
I think Lenny Acuff at Lipscomb got a vote. Okay. There was just it was good good representation across the board, which is what I wanted. Sometimes with some of these questions, they really need to be slanted toward the big conferences given the certain topic. This one is not. It's remove all affiliations. Just who's got the best X and O mind when it comes to it. And Painter narrowly out edges Hurley and McDermott, and a couple of guys that went to bat for McDermott. They were really. I think I sent you one of them where they were talking about their the way that he can get to his Spain action and all this stuff. I was like, I ain't Sam Vecini, but I'm always good to talk a little whiteboard stuff. So anyway, that's that. And by the way, there's more Candid Coaches stuff to come, different stories that'll publish this week later at CBSSports.com.
Yeah, question 4 is the X and O's question that we'll publish on Tuesday. We'll have another one publishing on Wednesday, another one publishing on Thursday. Elsewhere in the sport, we got a 5-star commitment in the class of 2026. Taylen Kinney is committed to Kansas. Picked the Jayhawks over offers from Louisville, Kentucky, Arkansas, Indiana, Oregon. He's a top 15 prospect in the class of 2026, number 1 ranked point guard, and just the third 5-star prospect in the class to publicly pledge to university. I guess this isn't a surprise by the time it happened. We knew this was headed this direction, but still, 5-star freshman headed to Kansas, and it had an interesting recruiting story tied to it that is funny on some level.
I think this is just objectively funny. Real quick on Kenny, I saw him at Adidas this year. Didn't know hardly anything about him before I saw him. He didn't even really play that well, and I walked away being like, that dude's awesome. He's going to be a tremendous college point guard. And if he's the kind of guy who's going to stay multiple years, like he could potentially be an All-American kind of talent as a point guard. I liked a lot of what I saw of him, and I didn't even see him at his very, very best. So my scouting sense take it for what it's not worth, but I did come away. He was one of my favorite players I saw in the summer this year. He's going to Kansas. Now, this happened, obviously, by the way, on CBS Sports HQ over the weekend. So congrats to our 247 team for getting that done in HQ, and Travis Branham, Eric Bossi, and co. and Finkelstein for making all that happen. Okay, the reason why we're talking about it, though, is this is why this is funny. So if we talked about this on the pod, I don't remember it, but maybe we did, and I'm just not remembering. But the live period started earlier this month in September, okay? And when that happens, it starts when the calendar flips. So it starts at midnight. And so Taylen Kinney was being recruited by a number of really, really good programs, 2 of them happening to be Kentucky and Louisville. And so at midnight, as the story goes, it was supposed to be Mark Pope that would go into Taylen Kinney's house when it was allowed on the books at midnight, and that was going to last however it was going to last, 5-10 minutes. Who knows how these things are booked out specifically. And then it would be Pat Kelsey in Louisville. Well, Kelsey and Louisville get to the house before Pope. Pope is apparently running late. Midnight comes, and at whatever moment, I can't report the exact moment. I don't know if it was 12:02, 12:01, 12:09. I don't know. Kelsey decides to make a move because Pope's not there. Okay, well, all's fair once everything's on the books and you're not there. Pope does get there, and I don't know if he beats him to the front door. Who knows? They have a little bit of an exchange that's been reported. I actually asked Pope about this, and he doesn't run from this stuff. Like, he's like, Pat and I are good. He's like, you want to report that we came to blows? I was like, will you say this on the record? Yes, I would like to report that you and Pat Kelsey got into a fist fight outside the home of a 5-star prospect. So if you'll let me, I will report it. Obviously that didn't happen, but I think it was a miscommunication. Pope was running late for whatever reason. And then after a little bit of a back and forth, they figured it out. They went their separate ways, and whatever. This is good. We should want this in college basketball. We should want. I can only take Pope and Kelsey liking each other so much. Okay, it doesn't have to be Cal Patino, but I need a little bit of this, GP. So anyway, they go through all this. It becomes a thing. The fan bases are, they're whipped up into a froth over this recruiting frenzy. And then what happens? Fast forward 2 weeks later, Bill Self gets him anyway. It didn't even matter. Bill Self comes in over the top. I love it even more so given the content we've talked about on this show, with Self not even winding up in the top 5 of top X and O coaches. Self's not done, folks. I think I might be higher on Kansas coming into this season. And Kinney, to be clear, he's not playing the season. He's playing next. I just think this was vintage, badass Bill Self, over the top, getting it done. I don't know how much Adidas did or did not factor in, but it should be said Kansas is an Adidas school. Louisville is as well. Kentucky is not. Kenny played on the Adidas circuit. And however they got it done, they got it done. And I just think it's hilarious that the Kentucky and Louisville fan bases were fighting about this for weeks, only to discover that on Sunday, this dude pledged to Bill Self all the while, and it was all for nothing.
Okay, lots of thoughts here. First off, I like that Mark and Pat are cool. Like I know,
but I don't need them being chummy. I don't know. Like
I know I'm in the minority here. Yeah. I do not need my rival coaches to hate each other.
I'm not even saying that. It's a little friction, not the worst thing. That's all.
Like you have Urban Meyer at Ohio State and whoever's coaching Michigan at the time, and they won't speak to each other, won't look at each other, won't say each other's names. And I did that always. Yeah, wasn't Harbaugh at the time. Yeah. I didn't want to mix it up. But that always seems silly to me. And so I know it's unusual to have the other extreme, but I just kind of like it when it's like I work here, you work there. I want to beat you, you want to beat me, but we don't have to hate each other and hate each other's families. I kind of like that more mature approach. I know it's not common, but I prefer it. I will say it is stuff like this that when you talk to coaches, they will tell you it just makes it hard. Like for instance, in my home state, I know Chris Beard and Chris Jans, the head coach at Ole Miss and Mississippi State, are like friends, men who have been spending time talking on the phone and texting for, years and years and years and years. And I don't know how much they do that now, that one of them is the coach at Mississippi State and the other one's the coach at Ole Miss. I think they're still friends and cool, but it does become harder when you are, banging heads in this way. And so I'm not surprised that Pat and Mark could have their relationship strained, even if it was just for a matter of minutes in a recruiting visit. Why are we doing this at midnight? It's stupid. It's so stupid. I mean, like,
I think it's hilarious.
It's dumb. Like nobody wants to be talking to a basketball coach at midnight. Let me tell you, I don't know if this has always been true, but here's where I'm at as far as midnight. All right. Yeah. With every single night of my life at midnight, I either want to be asleep.
Oh, here I know it's
or having a blast.
Okay.
Like I'm not even trying to be.
I know. I
mean, I want to be having a good time, or I want to be asleep. That's it. No in between.
You don't want to be talking business at 12:01 a.m.
No. You know how often you try to, hey, Saturday night after Gonzaga finishes, you want to go live at 11:51? No, I don't want to go live at 11.
Hey, I'm here for you, listeners and viewers. I just want to let you know I'm here for you.
I'm sitting in a studio to 2:00 in the morning, 2-3 nights a week. I don't want to do it when I'm home for 3 days a week for 5 straight months. So no, I don't want to be talking to coach. I want to talk to my wife and my kids or my friends at midnight. That's it. Or sleep. That's it. So the idea that we got college coaches knocking on doors at 12:15 is just stupid. Like the NBA used to do this, and you know what they figured out? why is Vince Carter taking a phone call at 12:01? All right.
And they
So
changed, it's like 3:00 in the afternoon now.
Yes. Now it's like official business starts.
Yeah.
It used to be like July 1st, midnight. And now I want to say maybe it's June 30th, middle of the afternoon or what,
Yeah.
but they just made it a more appropriate time so that people aren't calling people and showing up at their houses at midnight. You know how mad I'd be if Mark Pope and Pat Kelsey showed up at my house at midnight. I would be laying in bed in my Ring camera. I'd be, what is Mark Pope standing in my driveway?
That's what we need, by the way.
The Ring camera?
Yeah. Can we get Pablo Torre on this, by the way?
Pablo.
Come on.
Come on.
You've had your fun with Balmer. Let's get on this. I need Taylen Kinney's home Ring cam to see what actually happened.
Pablo, I think he got the Bill Belichick Ring camera.
Yeah, that's correct.
You know? Okay.
Yeah, he went to the damn Airbnb.
Yes.
He cosplayed.
And I've listened to all the Balmer stuff. Like, Pablo, you got him. They cheated their asses off. Okay, you got him. Only the idiots don't believe this at this point. You got him. All right? Can we turn our attention to Mark Pope and Pat Kelsey at Taylen Kinney's home? Get the Ring camera footage, Pablo. What are you doing?
Amazing. By the way, you can also agree with me. This is objectively hilarious. That
of course
two
it
of the
is.
most passionate fan bases coming off of just revitalizing seasons, real momentum in recruiting, some of the richest programs when it comes to NIL for the forthcoming season. They're fighting over this guy, number one point guard in the class, and there's Bill Self in the weeds.
I wish I'm gonna choose to believe that Bill was also there that night. Because couldn't you just see Bill walk up on it and there's Pat and
I can see the smile, the
there's
wry smile.
Pat and
on
Mark
face.
are arguing out in front of the home, and Bill just walks up. What you fellas all worked up about? What you fellas all worked up about on a Tuesday night?
Oh, man, so good.
Bill would just be calm and cool.
Yep.
Oh, you boys need to calm down. Let's knock this thing out. We'll go get us a bite to eat.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly. Because Pope and Kelsey, this is year 2 Blue Blood program. Bill Self been doing this decades. Yeah, he's been through plenty. Anyway, congrats to Self for getting him. Sounds like Kansas still has more coming. And also, we'll see. I don't think Tyron Stokes, the number one player in the class. I don't know when he's going to commit. Maybe he'll commit in a week from now. But I think the feeling is that might drag on a little bit. But I think folks are wondering if this commitment will have impacts one way or the other with wherever he decides to play. All those schools have been involved in the recruitment, as you'd expect, of the number one player in the country.
All right. Before we get out of here, you had on X this morning an update on the Players Era Festival. So tell us what we need to know.
Okay. Just a small update here. So Players Era is going off this year in Vegas, 18 teams. And then the plan remains to be a 32-team event starting in 2026. We'll see if they can get there, but they believe they're going to. So I've been told that contracts have been sent, basically agreed to. I think a few schools got to actually sign them. But Louisville, speaking of Kelsey, Miami, Missouri, Ohio State, and Virginia have all either signed or plan to sign to join starting next year in November of 2026. Florida's also recently joined. So if all the schools that are playing it this year, which they plan to play it next year, that means 24 of the 32 schools targeted for this event in Thanksgiving week of 2026 are on board. They've got 8 more to go. Sounds like there's a couple more schools that are getting pretty close. We'll see if that comes to be in the next week or so. But yeah, I mean, listen, you got Louisville involved. That's big. We'll see what Miami is in year 2. Missouri, it's got a 5-star top 5 player that's going to be committed to be a freshman at the time of this event, Jason Crow Jr. He'll be involved. Ohio State and Virginia. So yeah, just a small little news bit, but it does. I said this on, I think, the mailbag episode. Personally, I don't love that this is going to be a 32-team event because I don't like how it's going to essentially siphon off some of the other MTEs. I think you could still get what you're looking for with 16 teams, 24 teams at max. But they want to do 32. They want to have the biggest possible college basketball event in the history of the regular season in the sport. And they are 8 teams away from getting it done.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not going to object to it or protest it or scream about it. Like, whatever. It's a midseason tournament. But I kind of like the idea of the smaller brackets. And, there's a real chance Maui's never going to be the same.
You're
and
right.
there's a real chance Battle for Atlantis is never going to be the same. And I know it hasn't been around as long as Maui, but those were two awesome events where there were always multiple like championship contenders in the field, and it was a smaller field, 8 teams, I think, in Atlantis, 8 teams in Maui. And you get these moments of people holding trophies. And obviously the fewer events you have, because one is bigger than all the others, you just don't get as many people celebrating wins. You don't get as many people celebrating trophies, holding them in the sky. And not the biggest deal in the world. If you want me to fix college athletics, this is not where I'm starting. I got other places where I'm starting. But not a big deal. But I like the smaller tournaments, the smaller fields, and
I just like the variety, Parrish.
Yeah,
like I just like the variety, and so like Atlanta. I mentioned this on the mailbag show. Like, there's real wonderment if Atlantis will cease to exist eventually, and if it doesn't, what's the field going to look like? Maui's okay this year. It's actually got a little bit of a stronger field in 26, but what does Maui look like in 2030? Is it a 4-team event? Is it a 2? Everyone thinks that Maui's going to have to go from 3 to 2 games. Schools have typically had to pay to play in Maui, and for a long time, it was worth it. It was the preeminent event, and now the Players era, which is effectively paying schools, and then those schools can pay their players through NIL stuff. It's changed the paradigm. But I do also want to say this as well. There's still, like, understandably so, there's just a lot of skepticism over if this can be financially doable for the long term with players.
Right.
I mean, it's a ton of teams. It's tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. And so there's still more to be seen on that. Because last year it was successful. Everyone got paid out. Last year was 8 teams. Now they want to do 32, and they want to do more on the women's side. It's a very huge undertaking, and we should have more updates on the general status of this before we even get to the start of the regular season.
Yeah, there's smarter people than I, in charge of this, and if they believe it's financially feasible, then I'll take a wait and see approach. But I certainly do understand why some folks are skeptical. Just back to the Maui thing, then we'll get out of here. I understand, like, it's very expensive to go to Maui. Some coaches already think it takes something out of your team, like you lose something traveling in that way. So you try to go from 3 games down to 2. I think it just makes it harder to even, because you're going to have some coaches say, I'd go out there to play 3, but I'm not just going out there to play 2. And so that becomes another issue you've got to work around. I just hope that coaches don't lose sight of, and everybody's free to run their program however they see fit. And honestly, if I were running a power conference program, I might understand that the most important thing is getting NIL money and money to share with my players, and that's why we've got to do this instead of the other thing. But I hope coaches understand there's real value to, like, taking your players places like Maui. Like, they'll remember that forever. They'll have that experience forever. I just hope we don't get away from I know everybody's chasing a dollar, but like the Maui experience is an experience I would imagine every college basketball player who's ever been through that place has a memory of and pulls from it in storytelling time. And I just hope we don't lose that, because that has been an awesome thing Thanksgiving week for as long as I can remember.
Here to all of that. And I think we'll have more opportunities to expand on this topic as we get closer to the season, or at the very latest once it rolls around here in mid to late November. I think that's a Monday show, GP. I think that's
all right. Let's call it one. Shouts to Devin Downey.
You look ready to. It's been Grizzlies Media Day. Got to go get the kids. I got to get kids soon. So I think, take the rest of the day off. I think you're good.
Ran into a bit of a controversy at Grizzlies Media Day.
Okay. What do we got? I
was talking to your old friend Cedric Coward.
Oh, you know what? How's Cedric doing?
He's great. I understand why you loved him. I loved him too.
Impossible not to. Yeah.
He's just really wonderful. And it is funny, like, you see him walk in. Like, none of us have really ever seen him play basketball much. Yeah. It's wild. Yeah,
I know. It's
a lottery pick who's barely played basketball.
Yeah.
But you see him walk in the gym, and it's just like, he just looks different. He just looks like even Jalen Wells was like, I'm jealous of just the way he looks.
Yeah.
His arms are long, his shoulders are wide, and then he's great. Anyway, here's the controversy. So I'm like, hey, I've talked to other rookies before, and they say the weirdest thing is, like, for the first time, like, I'm 21 years old, and my teammates have wives and children, and they're like, I'm like, hey, you want to do something after practice? And they're like, I got to go pick up my kids in car rider line. Like, what do you thought? Yeah. Like, no, I'm going home to my wife. And he's like, yeah, that is weird. He's like Vince Williams, he just had a baby. So shouts to Vince, congratulations. And so, like, two 20 minutes later, Vince Williams sits down with us. And I said, hey, I heard we owe you a congratulations.
Oh, no.
And he was like, and I said, I mean, we're live on air.
Oh,
and I'm like, are we not supposed to know? And he's like, no. And I said, I'm just live on air. I'm like, your teammate said that Coward brought it up. I didn't even ask you.
Hold on, Coward.
Yes, I ain't going down.
Hold on. Did Coward say it on the air with you?
Yes.
Okay, so then you got to acknowledge it. Okay,
I had to acknowledge it, right?
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I was like, if you go back and watch the tape. Cedric brought this up 20 minutes ago. I didn't. He's like, all right, I'm gonna have to talk to the rook.
Oh boy, we got Grizzlies disharmony already.
It was always a matter of time. So I guess maybe just first rule of the NBA is don't start talking about your teammates' children until you know if they want you to.
Oh man, I had so one of my buddies who doesn't listen to neither of the buddies who told me this or involved in this listen to the show, so and I'm not going to identify them. But one of my buddies who has since successfully had a child, he found out that his wife was going to have a child, and the wife said, "You can't tell anyone," but he could not tell at least one person, so we told one of our mutual friends, and then for reasons I won't bore the podcast with, my buddy had to tell me for another reason, and he's like, I'm only telling you because you have to know, but you can't know about this. Like they don't want to announce for like another 6 weeks, so you can't know. And so I had to walk around and live with that for 6 weeks. I understandably so people get very like they want to announce pregnancies and the births on their own timeline. And this is fairly recent, so I recently had to deal with it. I was like, I don't want to know this. So why did you tell me? Even though I kind of had to know. And to this day, they still don't know that I knew. I had to act all surprised when I got told and all that kind of stuff.
I'm actually very good at this.
You did it on the radio as well, so
I'm the best at this. I'm very good. If you don't want to tell people that you're having a baby, but you need somebody to know, I'm your guy. Because I will forget, not care, or whatever. It just won't. We had this happen recently. Like some friends of ours got pregnant. And I knew they told I think on the golf course, my buddy was like, hey, we just found out having a boy, blah, 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 blah. I was like, congratulations, whatever. And then my wife comes to me like 2 months later and she's like, did you know so-and-so and so-and-so are having a boy? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, well, they told me not to say anything, so I was just not saying anything. I was following orders. And she was like, I'm your wife. And I was like, I really just forgot. I would have told you, I think. I don't care enough to even remember. I didn't care enough to tell you.
Yeah,
I don't care enough.
Yeah, well, that's
but like, here's the thing. It'll be the biggest secret in the world to you. And I'll keep it only because I don't care enough to even tell it.
I don't think about you at all. Yeah. Gosh.
I'll keep all your secrets because I don't really care.
That's amazing. That's a good story. That's a show.
Right.
And I think we got more coming here. But I might have to dip out for a minute or two. But I'll be back before long.
Oh, I can't wait. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle, legend. Huck Larnell, thank you guys once again for watching, listening to the Eye on College Basketball podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So do that. We'll talk to you again real soon.